Hey, it's Lily from SocioScholar back with another episode. Today, we're unpacking Neo-Marxism. I touched on this topic in our critical theory lesson, but I've seen your comments asking about it, and it seems that the term Neo-Marxism is a bit of a head-scratcher for some of you, so I've put together a short lesson to break it down. Let's get started. Neo-Marxism can be seen as an intellectual movement that emerged as a response to traditional Marxist theory in the 20th century. Neo-Marxists have critically evaluated classical Marxism while still preserving many of its core elements, but adding a modern twist to it. Neo-Marxism surfaced mostly after World War II, when some thinkers noticed that classical Marxism didn't seem to be able to fully explain the changes in a post-war capitalist world. Marx's predictions about workers' revolutions in Western societies didn't come true. Also, some of these thinkers were under the impression that Karl Marx was some kind of prophet or fortune teller with a magical crystal ball who could predict the future. So, when some of his predictions, like workers' revolutions in industrialized Western societies, didn't come true, they were really disappointed. So, they rolled up their sleeves, aiming to understand where Marx went wrong, and adapted classical Marxism to address contemporary issues. Well, some scholars argue that Neo-Marxism is nothing more than just Marxism refined through dialectical reasoning, which is a practice common among Marxist intellectuals, particularly those of the Frankfurt School. If you want to know what dialectical reasoning is, go check out the lesson on critical theory. I have explained it there in detail. It's important to know that the fluidity and adaptability of capitalism really caught the attention of some Marxist thinkers, and it occurred to them that Marx and Engels underestimated the adaptability and fluidity of capitalism. They thought that if capitalism could evolve and adapt, then it was their duty, as the successors of Marx's anti-capitalist ideology, to ensure that their critique and resistance was just as adaptable and responsive to the times, and that's how they got into Neo-Marxism. There are some who define Neo-Marxism as a Marxian school of thought rather than Marxist, which integrates contemporary critiques and ideas, focusing more on cultural and ideological issues than strictly economic concerns. The idea that it's Marxian, not Marxist, stems from Neo-Marxism's deviation from key Marxist concepts, especially economic ones like historical materialism. But let's be real, this is one of those wordplays that academics often do, so you don't have to worry about it. Overall, what you need to remember is when Neo-Marxists critiqued classical Marxism, it was with the intention of expanding it, not discrediting or disproving it. The Frankfurt School is the foundation building block of any discussion of Neo-Marxism, but since we already have had a lesson on critical theory and have talked about it in detail, I'm just going to focus on Gramsci and Lukács for today's lesson. Antonio Gramsci, the Italian-Albanian philosopher, introduced fresh ideas that acted like a bridge from classical Marxism to Neo-Marxism. He built on the original concepts of base and superstructure, where the economy influences our social and political lives. Gramsci dove deeper, exploring how ideology and beliefs also shape society. Unlike classical Marxists, who focused heavily on the economy's role, Gramsci paid attention to the power of ideas and culture in maintaining control and dominance in society. This shift in focus offered a more nuanced view of social change and power dynamics. The ideas of Gramsci Lukács were also a gateway to Neo-Marxism. Lukács believed that society was shaped by the way people related to each other. As the post-war society started to become more interdependent and human relations were becoming more complex, his ideas gained more attention and inspired later Neo-Marxists. Lukács explained a problem that he called reification, which simply means that social relationships, especially in a capitalist society, can become object-like or thing-like. People begin to feel like cogs in a machine, detached and alienated. So, while classical Marxism emphasized economic structures, Lukács added the layer of human relationships and consciousness to the mix, giving a helping hand to Neo-Marxism, which considers both economic and cultural factors in understanding society. While there isn't and there cannot be a concrete categorization of different strains of Neo-Marxism, several interpretations and focuses exist in this intellectual framework. Neo-Marxism is an umbrella term, covering a range of theories that, while rooted in Marxist principles, have extended or deviated to include additional elements. Here are 5 examples. Well, of course, the first one in the list is critical theory. Emerging from the Frankfurt School, it emphasizes cultural and ideological critique, analyzing ways societal norms and values uphold capitalist structures. Structural Marxism was one of the most fertile and inventive of the 20th century's efforts to bring about a renaissance in classical Marxism. Inspired by the ideas of Jacques Lacan and Louis Althusser, structural Marxists thinks that the economy's influence on society does not happen randomly and automatically, but it is shaped by underlying invisible forces that are structured and organized. For structural Marxists, it's not just about people's actions and decisions, but also about the unseen forces that shape and limit those actions. Analytical Marxism is an Anglo-American adaptation of classical Marxism that relies on logical reasoning and social science methods, distancing itself from traditional dialectical thinking to offer a refined perspective on Marxist theories in modern times. Feminist Marxism combines Marxist and feminist perspectives, analyzing the ways in which class and gender oppression intersect and reinforce each other. And eco-Marxism focuses on the relationship between capitalism and environmental degradation, analyzing how capitalist economic structures contribute to ecological issues. Now, as usual, let's now see what the critics have to say. One problem people have with Neo-Marxism is that it can be inconsistent. Even though having many different views shows it can change and grow, it can also lead to contradictions. Different ideas within Neo-Marxism can seem like they don't connect well, making it hard to have a clear and unified set of beliefs. From the view of traditional Marxism, Neo-Marxism is criticized for moving away from basic ideas like how economies and societies change over time. Critics believe that by putting too much attention on culture and ideas, Neo-Marxism might be ignoring the economic and social issues that drive the conflict between different classes, resulting in a weaker criticism of capitalism that doesn't have the strong call for change that original Marxism did. Also, some feel that by focusing too much on cultural and idea-based factors, Neo-Marxism loses the strong call for revolution that original Marxism had. That's it, folks. We've reached the end of our series on Marxism and critical theory. So this is an overview of what we did in this series. First, we started with a lesson on Marxism. We covered essential concepts in Marxist thinking, discussed the primary critiques of Marxism, and traced the evolution of Marxism throughout history. Then, we had a journey to the heart of critical theory and the Frankfurt School. Next, we learned about Jürgen Habermas and his influence on critical theory. And today we finish the series with Neo-Marxism. Stay tuned because up next we're diving into phenomenological theory and methods, another topic that seems to puzzle many of you. But no stress. I'm here to prove that it's not as complex as it sounds, so there's no need to be intimidated by the term phenomenology. Thanks for watching, and make sure to share the lesson with anyone you think would benefit from it. See you soon. Take it easy.